If you're a fan of military watches, this video is for you because we are going to discuss military watches from around $30 to about $500, and you will see that you've got all kinds of movements, manufacturers. This is a type of watch that is really popular and that has hopped through national boundaries to become the phenomenon that it is today. Because after dive watches, military watches are arguably the second most popular type of watch. However, do you know what really constitutes a military watch? I believe that is really debated, and in order to accurately answer the question, we have to go back to the origin of military watches. And those are the trench watches of the First World War. In order to understand military watches, we have to understand the story of human conflict in the 20th century, because military watches and modern warfare go hand in hand. The ancestors of what we know today as military watches were the watches that were worn by officers in World War I. And these were first of all converted pocket watches, and already at the time the basis for being a military watch was that it should be legible, that it should have some kind of luminous material, and that it should have somehow some kind of shock resistance. Technology wasn't there at the time. However, when World War II came, the belligerents were much more savvy and they really knew what they wanted. And when the United Kingdom went to war, it had already commissioned watches to some really specific criteria, which were, as I have mentioned, legibility, water resistance, luminous materials, and shock proofness, with the glass being much more resistant than the crystals that were prone to shattering from pocket watches. And during World War II is where we see what we recognize today as a military watch with the 12-hour bezel. When the United States went to war, they commissioned their local manufacturers, so Bulova, Waltham, and others, to make watches very similar to what English had commissioned, but with an extra feature, which was hacking. But the concept of what we know today as a military watch still had to evolve a bit, and that happened in the Korean War with the advent of the A18 watches commissioned by the US military. It included the 24-hour dial, and that is what I would define like the quintessential model of what we all recognize as being a military watch. However, we see that all those concepts are mixed in there. Today, a military watch can mean pretty much anything that you want it to be. What we have to know is that a military watch has to be rough, it has to have a robust movement, it needs to be easily readable, it needs to have luminescence, and it needs some kind of water resistance. 50 meters would be a bare minimum, and we know that today the quintessential military watch of fighters, of fighting forces today is, well, a G-Shock. But let's go more traditional in this video. I'm going to present to you a few classic military watches, ranging from the least to the most expensive. And the least expensive here is going to be, of course, the Timex Expedition. This takes the form of the classic 24-hour military watch with really no frills at all, a 40mm case, a 50-meter water resistance, a case that is made out of brass, that is absolutely unbeveled. If you look at this watch, this corresponds to the quintessential notion of what we imagine a field watch is. 39mm in diameter, quartz in there, the beautiful Indiglow luminescence, at a price of barely over $30. And of course, I'm going to put all the links of the watches in the video in the description right underneath. The Chinese have taken hold of the idea of the classic field watch with mainly 3 brands that propose really good stuff. The first of them is Militado. Militado does some really nice watches for the price, and with these ML05, which is 38mm, you have a little bit more thrills, a little bit more worked hands, a little bit more worked materials in here. You have a stainless steel case, for example, and a sapphire crystal, but always a quartz movement. It is a VH31. It takes 4 times a second instead of the 1 time a second of the usual quartz. The luminescence is also really good in this watch. You have a domed sapphire crystal. The watch goes for $48, and for that price you can really not go wrong. The other watch of this selection we have discussed in length. It is a Boderry Voyager. If you check my other videos, you will see full reviews of this watch. I will leave one in the description as well. 39 millimeters. This is an automatic watch for $70. It is an extremely good price for all that you get. You get a full titanium case, you get that Seiko NH35 in here, you get really good lume for the price once again, and you get a sapphire crystal. So I believe that in terms of value, you cannot go wrong with Boderry Voyager, and that is why they were sold out for such a long time. You also have 200 meters of water resistance, which is great for a watch such as this. The last Chinese watch that we will see in the selection is the Baltany Dirty Dozen 36 millimeters, and this is really a retelling, if not pretty much a design copy of a Dirty Dozen watch, down to the size at 36 millimeters. It is, however, a quartz movement, small seconds, but it takes just once a second, unlike the VH31. The advantage with Baltany is that it is slightly better made than Militado. It will have an amazing sapphire crystal with a really anti-reflective coating, and the lume is also very good. This one costs $111, which is non-negligible. Well, still it is not a lot of money, but it does offer better quality than the other two. From China, let's go to Japan with the Seiko SRPG. This is part of the new Seiko 5 line, and this is actually the field watch of that series. 39.5 millimeters in diameter, a 24-hour bezel once again, really good lume as well. We all know the Seiko Superluminova, and a date complication. A very good watch, one of the best values that Seiko offer from their new Seiko 5 line. The other ones are a bit too expensive to my liking, especially because they do not offer sapphire crystal. This just has hardlex crystal. Still, with that 4R36 movement and the fact that you're buying a Seiko here, this is really something not to overlook. And what's more, you also have a bracelet in here. Some would argue that a military watch should only come on a canvas, a NATO. Well, here you get a bracelet. You can always put it on the NATO. And for $200 here right now, it is an extremely good deal. Now we go to the daddy of dive watches, and that is the Hamilton Khaki mechanical. Hamilton has made their bread and butter from these kind of military watches. However, the mechanical is the quintessential mechanical watch with the design that has been so well known. Hamilton was, after all, one of the suppliers of this watch to the US military during the Korean and especially during the Vietnam War. The watch is really the design that you think about when you think military watch. A bead blasted case with no frills at all, even some would say austere, but that is the whole point. 38 millimeters in diameter, really thin, just over 9 millimeters thick, and the big advantage of this watch is that it has a Powermatic 80, which gives it 80 hours of power reserve. And usually these movements are really well regulated, and this is a pure mechanical watch, so no automatic. So when you wind the big crown, it is such a pleasure. I had this watch a long time ago. I would argue that it is actually kind of expensive for what it is. It is usually $600 or so at market price. In order to make it into this video, I had to go for the Joma Shop option, which is around $450. I will also leave you the Amazon option. Of course, there's many other field watches, some that are really expensive. There's even some Patek Philippe. There's even some Rolex. Some would argue that the Explorer is a military watch. I would say no, but then again, it depends on what you call a military watch. and you even have some models from, but I think that they lose that robustness. The fact that a military watch, you can put it on and just bang it around, and if you want to feel like a military man, I do believe that most modern militaries wear, as I said at the beginning of the video, just a G-Shock. There's no better military watch today than a G-Shock. Let's not beat around the bush, guys. In any case, thank you so much for watching the video. I really hope that it was useful for you. If it was, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. 90% of you guys watching the content do not subscribe, and it would really help me if you would consider doing so. We have discussed military watches, but what about the most popular dive watches? I'm gonna leave you here with a list of the best dive watches for under $300, and I'm also gonna leave you here with a list of the latest best deals that you can find on Amazon or AliExpress. Thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you very soon in those videos.